Hello and welcome to Thove Castle of FE4 0% Growth LTC playthrough. So we are now firmly into the late game of the first generation, and that means, since I'm on 0% growths, that now the way in which I play is significantly different from a usual playthrough. Earlier was still the same general cavalry rush tactics, except maybe a little bit slower and not as effective, but now things are really different. In comparison to other games on 0% growths, I feel that in terms of raw stats, your units fall off way more in Fire Emblem 4 than they do in other games, with the exception of Levin. Because even though Fire Emblem 4 is considered to be a generally easy game, it's not the hardest game with growths. A lot of that is due to the fact that units have some really good growths. In terms of base stats there, not many units have very good base stats in this game. And those that do are largely infantry, which is very problematic. But to make up for this game is still probably rather not as hard as other games on 0% growths, because the game gives you some, frankly, amazing toys to play around with. For instance, such as the rescue staff, which lets me pull units all over the map really easily as a range of 10, and it's very convenient because when you rescue an enemy, the priority is to have them appear one square above the staff user. I'm not sure about other priorities, I may have to work them out for later on in the playthrough, but this is convenient in Thove, where I'm generally headed upwards in terms of map architecture. And then there's also the leg ring and the night ring. The night ring unfortunately doesn't get to go on a dancer. This playthrough, well, in the first generation, the second generation does, simply because there isn't the money to go around. Sigurd and Lachesis both deeply need the money, and it would save more turns in their hands than it would in Sylvia's, and I don't think even if I had the night ring on her that it could save a turn in this chapter. And finally, also wind magic just being ridiculous. Loading. Promoted Levin just has amazing evade even on 0% growths. Like with the speed ring, it's 55 at base stats. Since he's running around the map with Lachesis and Sigurd, that can boost it to 75. So even before he gets whole steady, he's still a god, which you'll see as he massacres this map. Like, yeah. And another thing is the rescue staff. Look at how quickly I made it this far into the map. 2 turns I'm already there. Later on I'm slowed down by enemies and terrain. Also, the rescue staff unfortunately only has 10 uses, which is enough in actually pretty much every map it's used except for this one. This is the one map where I have any real trouble, the one castle where I have any real trouble with rescue staff uses, because it's just such a long castle. Even with the rescue staff, it still takes me 8 turns, so at any other part of the game, the number of uses on the rescue staff does not prove to be a limitation, because I can easily repair it, but that's expensive to do, which is the largest reason that I got Ethlin to pass down the bargain ring to Leaf. So here the main priority is Lachesis, Sylvia, and Sigurd, and they all really can't take many hits. And Levin can't really either, because unfortunately he had to take a lot of damage from these wind mages, but he's not too badly off. So one interesting thing about the AI is this may look super risky, like won't my units get put to sleep by the bishop with a sleep staff, but actually no. For some reason the AI in this game is programmed such that whenever there's a wounded ally, the AI will prioritize healing that wounded ally of theirs over putting one of my units to sleep, which means that as long as I make sure that there's at least one enemy that's even lost a smidgen of health, then my units are not in danger of getting put to sleep. Which is very good, because none of my units have the resistance to avoid getting put to sleep, and I'm going too fast to provide a decoy. And you can see over there that Beowulf is trailing forward. I didn't think I'd need more sacrifices in the first generation. Turned out I needed a decoy to lure the Pegasus Knights away. didn't really want to deal with them. It would either reduce reliability or lose me a turn. I'm not sure which of the two, but since Beowulf isn't doing anything more anyways, I decided it would just be simplest and the best viewing experience if he also had to kick the bucket. So he's on his last charge. He'll just distract all those Pegasus Knights because they're actually pretty scary on 0% growth. On a normal playthrough, their low attack means that a unit like Lex or Sigurd probably will only get chipped by them, but high accuracy and low might is still scary because my units have low defense. Here Sigurd manages to dodge rather easily with very little RNG abuse, simply because he has the light sword equipped. In fact, I'm actually rather surprised that even in late game like this, where you'd think it would take even more rigging, I have very little rigging to do in this castle. There isn't a single point where I have to actually tell you to skip in the video due to rigging. And I really like that. I don't have to do that. It feels like my strategy is a lot more elegant, a lot cleaner. So now I'm just pulling Beowulf ahead. You can really set up some great rescue formations with the rescue staff. It's what helps me get so far ahead. And here Sigurd weakens the other one because he can't kill any anyways because he can't double at this point. And it's just so that there are more weakened enemies in the hopes that it'll keep the bishop distracted longer. Although I think that was technically unnecessary, but so maybe that was a mistake because I wasted use of the light sword and now I have to repair, but whatever. And now Beowulf, he won't actually kill Kavuli, he's just, I don't know why I had him do that, maybe so that he goes down thinking he has some purpose. But now it's just Lex continuing to pull units ahead. She's running out of rescue uses. With more rescue uses, it might have been possible to 7-turn this castle. I'm not completely sure, but I mean, she runs out at the end. Thankfully, it's after everyone is in position to seize the castle relatively quickly, so it's not that big a deal. In terms of side objectives on this map, there's really not much. I have my final team for this generation with all it needs, with the exception of whole setting on Levin, which I will get very soon. So there aren't any training benchmarks I need to hit. There is the jealousy formation with Claude and Fury, but that isn't really an objective. They just sit there for this whole map and all of next map and barely have enough time to get paired. It's actually very nice. The optimal pairings just barely work out. I think maybe on the last turn for both Azel and Claude and Fury. And that will really help save turns in the next generation. Having the rescue staff a chapter earlier by being able to pass it down to Seti is just perfect. It's far more important in terms of turn saving than passing down whole Seti would be, surprisingly, because soon when I get to the second generation, but cavalry rushes last a lot longer in that generation. And you see Sigurd doing a little bit, getting a few hero lance kills here and there on mages, but the generation's pretty much a one-man show from this point onwards. As you can tell, Levin's the only unit that's still competent. The gap between him and other units gets even wider once he picks up whole Seti. Which is just, well, just an absurd weapon. I think its stats alone are probably good enough to make a decent unit, even without just its stat boost alone. And Levin has high base stats to begin with, and once I give him the pursuit ring and the speed ring, it's just overkill. Pretty much the only thing this whole generation that gives him any trouble ever is Reptor, who I actually have to RNG abuse a bit more. But I shouldn't be talking too much about him right now. So unfortunately I had to lug do around this chapter. Another objective I may do is I'm going to try and get him more cash, simply because either Laxus or Sigurd, there's a good chance they'll need more money. Unfortunately, I still need to buy Sigurd the speed ring the speed ring, the leg ring, probably, well, the hero sword. I probably want to have a decently repaired light sword, and the earth sword would have more. Oh, also, rip Beowulf. You did good. You saved that one turn in Chapter 3. That's more than can be said about a lot of units. You could be like Azel and relegating to being a masochist who just gets killed in the arena again and again, so... You did good. You definitely did good. But, yeah. There aren't going to be any more sacrifices in this chapter, I promise. I don't know if Beowulf dying there actually saved a turn, but it did greatly increase reliability because Levin needs rigging to take on all those Pegasus Knights at once, so it's just far better to bypass them entirely. If I wasn't doing Claude and Fury, I could have just had her lure them away without dying, but if she spends any time away from her jealousy formation, it doesn't work out. And now you're going to see, well, you've seen the beauty of Levin quite a bit already, but you'll get to see it again as he completely tears apart those castle guards. Seems risky, but I'll explain why it's not sin. That's the last use of the rescue staff. Thankfully, it's good enough so that I don't need to, well, there's nothing left to really do with it. I think if I'd had 2 more uses, I could probably 7-turn the chapter by rescuing Sylvia over having Levin kill one of the armor knights, then have it dance a formation with Sigurd and all, have Levin kill the boss and Sigurd hero lance his way through a mage, but alas, the rescue staff is not a 12-use item, and I do not have that luxury, as nice as it might be. There are a lot of these things that just one tiny value is different, it would make a lot more possible, but just gotta take what you can. I first tried to put Holland further out, but even though he's pretty good stats, his defenses are still low, so he can't get as many kills on the hero sword as I'd like. But I think he gets enough that it'll be ready. Dew opens the bridge, that's, well, besides more money dumping, that's all he's going to do in this playthrough. Dubis, I feel, I don't know whether to say he's underrated or not. He has terrible combat, but I think people underappreciate his money dumping abilities. It doesn't always come into play, but in ranked runs and O-turn count playthroughs like this where you need to quickly get units, the utility is just amazing. I don't even care if he can't fight because of all the things he does. Like, without him I couldn't give Sigurd all the items, which would lose me turns in Chapter 6, and the rest of the second generation. Laxus wouldn't promote on time, which would lose me turns here. I really think that Dew is the unsung hero of this playthrough. Nobody in the Serenades Force threads, no one's talked about his contributions, but really without him, I have no idea where I'd be, so props to Dew. So Levin's completely safe, even though things look risky for them. I have to burn a few random numbers, but the Wind Mages have very low hit rate. The Javelin Armor Knights with both Charisma and Leadership boost have a 5% hit on him, so go figure, he'll dodge all these hits even though he can be one-shotted, getting a bunch of kills. Levin's just a goblin unit, honestly. I feel that with so many units like Levin, Fire in the Fourth Growth is kind of a choose-your-own-adventure on how you want to trivialize the game, which I personally find fun, but I do not disagree with the people who claim Fire in the Four is in balance. Like, look at this is 0% growth, he's meant to be weak as hell, yet he's still doing everything. Holland picks up a few more kills. So at the end of this video, I lost a bit of the end, but all that was lost was Sigurd actually seizing Thove, and I think that's happened enough that you know what's up. So here's Sigurd attacks to weaken him up, to weaken Bios up so that Levin can get the kill. Levin, you know, with pursuit and continuing critical, will utterly wreck him. Sylvia dances, and I get my Seize on. So this is completed in 8 turns. thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.